Well, hello and welcome to Off the Stone Sharpening. Today I'm really excited because I actually am going to have my first cutting experience with a Japanese knife. I've always obviously admired Japanese cutlery, and I've always wanted to try some out. And luckily, because of my knife sharpening master, which I'll show you right here, there he is. Because of him, I was able to actually use some new sharpening stones, and I have a couple new Japanese knives to sharpen and test out. So I'll show you this Japanese knife that he let me use. I am not sure what it is, but that's the box. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. Here is the knife. So this knife steel is HAP 40. I don't know a ton about all the super steels, but looking at the composition of this knife, I know that it will obviously have advantages and disadvantages in the kitchen. The advantages of HAP 40 is it has excellent edge retention. So a great thing about sharpening this knife is once you sharpen it, especially using the knife in the kitchen, you're not going to have to sharpen it for a long, long time, which is a wonderful thing. Now the disadvantage of HAP 40 is its corrosion resistance. I think it only has like 7%, maybe even 8% chromium. So it's definitely a steel that you're going to want to oil after use, especially if it's getting really wet. But other than that, I'm really excited to test this thing out. I've never owned a Japanese knife. I've never cut with a Japanese knife. And until now, I had never sharpened a Japanese knife. So my knife sharpening master allowed me to borrow a whole set of stones. This is only 3 of them. But these are the Nanawa Chosera series stones. And the one that I started off with is this one right here. And this is a 400 grit. And then I went to the 1000 and then the 3000. But what was really cool about sharpening on the 3000 is he also let me borrow this. Now, if you don't know what that is a Nagura stone. And they're specifically from Japan. And the way you use them is you'll actually rub them on one of your polishing stones. And what it will do is create a slurry and allow you to have a higher polish. So that's what I did with this knife, this guy right here. I sharpened on these 3 stones. I used the Nagura stone to create a slurry on the 3000 grit. And just very quickly about these stones, I've never used these before. They really have a great tactile feel. When you're sharpening on them, the knife will stick to the stone a little bit, which is nice. It doesn't feel like it's going to like slide off or anything. And they just really have a great feel to them. And I'm excited to see how sharp this knife got. Going to a 3000 grit that's a pretty decent grit to stop at if you're sharpening a kitchen knife especially. It's pretty decent. Even though I could take it further, I thought 3000 is plenty good enough. So after sharpening on all these stones, I strapped on this vegetable tan leather. And yeah. So this knife is called a Japanese petty knife, which is like the equivalent of a utility or paring knife. And I figured the way we should test this thing out, since it's a kitchen knife, is on some fruits and vegetables. I mean, why not? It's cool to do paper cut tests, shave some hair. But I want to see how this knife actually cuts vegetables and fruit because that's what I would use it for. So I'll change the camera angle around and we'll cut some fruits and vegetables. So I am really excited to use this knife. I've always wanted to use a Japanese knife, and I'm so thankful to be able to sharpen it and use it. So I have a large assortment, or a decently large assortment of fruits and vegetables to test this knife out on. So let's do it. All right, let's see how she does with the bell pepper. Wow. That is nice and smooth. Whoa. Yep, that may be the smoothest cutting edge I've ever used in a kitchen. Honestly, it just feels, it's kind of hard to describe. It literally just glides through with no effort. Yeah, that's really nice. So that was with the Chosera 400, 1000, and 3000. And with the Nagura stone to create the slurry. Wow. That is really, really nice. The amount of effort to get through that pepper, I mean, that is just, that's nice. All right. And I shouldn't act as if I'm shocked, because Japanese knives are absolutely incredible. At least I've heard that, and now my own experience. Yeah, so basically it almost feels like how a butter knife feels cutting butter, to be honest. Like, as you can see, I mean, I am purposefully not trying to apply much pressure. If I was actually cutting this in the kitchen, I would be, you know, but I'm purposefully using the least amount of pressure as I can. And watch, even with like tiny bit of pressure, I mean, it just glides so smooth through. Wow. Very, very awesome. All right. I think we'll start with vegetables and then maybe move on to the fruit. Might be the way I do it. All right, what do I want to do next? How about lovely cucumber? Let's see here. Wow. Yeah, that's nice. It's just... got the dog barking there. That is awesome. If you have not tried out a Japanese knife, I would highly recommend you do. I love it. What I love about this edge, and it's obviously from the steel and the stones I used, is even though it's super smooth, it's got a nice bite to it, which I do enjoy that in a kitchen. You know, having a coarser edge in the kitchen isn't always like extremely desirable. A lot of times I like a fine edge, but this is kind of almost a balance of the two. It's smooth yet bitey, which could be the steel and the stones. Like I said, I've never used Hat 40. I don't know anything really about it, except I looked up the composition. But yeah, it's wonderful. All right, let's see how she does with some old mushrooms. Nice and smooth. Yeah, you could get super precise with this knife. It's just so precise. It is definitely really nice to use. Looks like I'll be making a stir fry tonight, or a big salad. Okay. All right, let's cut an old trusty onion. Wow, that is nice. There we go. I don't know if you can hear that cat in the background. It's actually pretty funny sounding. They get upset about things. Okay. Let's see how she does with the onion. It's a pretty hard onion, that's for sure. Oh, that's nice. Nice and smooth. That is definitely a hard onion. So let me know in the comments what Japanese knives you would recommend and what you've used and what you like. I'd be curious just because I've never used them, and what a pleasure to use a knife like this. It's definitely going to make good use in the kitchen for sure. Alright, let's transition over to some fruits. Get this onion off of here. And actually, I'm going to wash this cutting board really quick and the knife, because I don't really want my fruit to taste like onions. Cut some strawberries. Might as well eat them. A nice, buttery, smooth cut. Very nice. Okay, let's cut some lemon. Now, lemon's also one of those things that if your knife isn't sharp, just getting through the skin of like a lemon or an orange, a lime obviously, if your knife is not sharp, it's a great way to actually test and see if you've sharpened your knife correctly. Because it has like that little bit of give, it offers a lot more resistance when cutting. So that's definitely one way to see if you've sharpened your knife correctly, actually, is to use any of those fruits. Alright, well, I'll have some lemon water for later. Let's see how an apple does. It's going to be harder, so I'm going to have to apply some more pressure. Very nice. Gotta watch your fingers doing something like this. Be gentle at first, and when you get through, then apply pressure. Just do a little, and then... This is not normally how I would cut an apple, but for the demonstration, I thought it would be a good way to cut it. So as you can see, it is a nice, smooth cut. Very, very nice. Well, my first impressions with a Japanese knife, PAP 40 steel, Chosera stones, all very, very good, extremely high quality. Highly impressed, and I'll love using this in the kitchen. I know my family will as well. Now, something cool about what my knife master gave me is basically this is the little baby, but I have the bigger brother of this, and I plan on sharpening it with some Chosera stones, maybe some Sharpens, in the future on my channel. So look forward to that. I plan on doing that as soon as I can. And so what we'll do is sharpen that guy and see how that'll go, and maybe I'll even take that to an 8000. Go crazy with it. We'll see. Well, shall we see how this knife cuts paper after all of that cutting? Might as well see, right? See if it's done anything to the edge. Yep, so it seems to be just fine. Definitely isn't going to struggle with edge retention. See how smooth that cut still is? Very sharp edge still. And it's not like I'd put it through a ton of abuse. I mean, it's just some vegetables and fruit. But I did want you to see how it would cut paper after all that cutting. Yeah, if you've sharpened your knife well, you can cut in a kitchen with a kitchen knife. Oh yeah, that feels good still. You can definitely use a knife for a long time in the kitchen. And then if you want, you can always strop it back to life if you want, rather than resharpening it. Something like this knife steel, I can tell it's gonna last for a long time in the kitchen. Well, I appreciate you joining me for my first Japanese knife cutting experience. And let me know in the comments what you think. And like I said, also, if you have any recommendation for some Japanese knives, I would definitely like to hear. And I'll look forward to seeing you in another video, and I'll do the Big Brother sharpening at some time here in the future. Have a great day.